Welcome! Cleanpin episode 17. After the show in Saudi Arabia. Whoa, where do we begin? Now, if you are traveling into a time machine, think back 20 years ago. Early 2000s, 2000, 2001. At the height of WCW, one of their bigger characters was a character by the name of Goldberg. I'm sure you're familiar with him, all you old school fans, longtime wrestling fans. Goldberg, remember, who had a undefeated streak that, well, if I'm not mistaken, went well into the hundreds, maybe close to 200s before he was defeated. What is the exact number? 180 before he was defeated? Something like that. Up there, right? A man whose matches in Goldberg lasted a very, very short time. Spear, jackhammer, sayonara, couple of seconds, maybe under 2 minutes before you could even grab the beer and the chips from the fridge and the cabinet, before you even sat down, that match was already over. It was a Goldberg match during his height of being undefeated. And, well, it was pretty much similar to that of a Mike Tyson fight where, those Tyson fights in the glory days of boxing were over 1, 2, 3. And the wrestlers back then were afraid of hearing the phrases, "You're next." Goldberg, a champion, a destroyer, 20 years ago. But he then, after WCW, did eventually join the WWE for a cup of coffee, then disappeared for a long time, and reappeared again, and he actually defeated the Beast, Brock Lesnar, if I'm not mistaken, for the world title. No, I'm sorry. He defeated Kevin Owens, but had an epic fight back and forth with the Beast Brock Lesnar. Stood toe to toe with him. This is Goldberg. All those years later, he comes back. He goes toe to toe with the most fearless, with the most fearful, people afraid of him, Brock Lesnar, and he almost defeats him. He almost gets the last word. So I pose to you the question, is the Fiend losing to Goldberg a travesty? Well, keep in mind that Goldberg is a Hall of Famer too, WWE Hall of Famer. Well, I would tell you that his loss is a travesty. Not a travesty, but it's something where you just shake your head at the Fiend losing. They have invested so much. A lot of people are saying that the Fiend is really the only character in quite some time that they could get, that they're vested in emotionally, that they're interested in. The Fiend. And mind you, this is not even Bray Wyatt that loses to Goldberg. You might even argue, of the two, between The Fiend and Bray Wyatt, okay, is the vulnerable one. The Fiend is the guy that's unstoppable. Strike fear. And well, although The Fiend, it did take a few spears from the great Goldberg before The Fiend did stay down, he still lost to Goldberg. The aura, the mystique of the evil one, the one that you should be scared of, was crushed, defeated by Goldberg. Goldberg ain't afraid of the dark, and he's not afraid of The Fiend. What happens with The Fiend now? I could almost say that even if you factor in, okay, The Fiend loses the championship. Okay, he then is standing behind Goldberg. He doesn't attack Goldberg after he loses the title. He's just staring at him. Okay, so Goldberg turns his back, keeps his back turned after glancing at him. Keeps his back turned, goes back to posing for the crowd. Then the lights go out. Goldberg still doesn't attack. Fiend still doesn't attack Goldberg to get the last word. Rather, he just disappears from the ring like a coward. Like a puppy with its tail between its two legs. So I could almost understand if it's Bray Wyatt and not The Fiend losing. Okay? Bray Wyatt, would then come out the next week, next day, would then come out tomorrow on SmackDown and be like, listen, I'm going to get The Fiend after you. This will never happen again. But no, it's The Fiend that loses. The monsters, the sociopath Fiend that you spent all this time building up. And that's it. That's it. I could almost say, okay, well, even if you go with that route of Goldberg defeating The Fiend, even if The Fiend were to attack Goldberg at the end and attack him viciously, beating him to a pulp, you would still have that element where now The Fiend looks even more dangerous because now you really pissed him off. And you knocked off a Hall of Famer that, had a undefeated streak of 180 and something, albeit 20 years ago. But the man has won a lot more than he has lost. So I could even see it that way happening. You would make, The Fiend would look 10 times more evil and destructive, even if you do it that way. But no. Is the aura, is the mystique of The Fiend now gone? Do you, as the wrestling fan, now care about The Fiend? See, I would have, if I was looking at this match, if you think about it, Goldberg is probably a guy that if he's making a trip out to Saudi Arabia, this has to make sense for him, right? I don't think he would be going out there to be embarrassed and take a clean pin, right? I don't think that would happen for Goldberg. I don't think he would do that. Sure, it's Saudi money, it's big time money, but I don't think he would go out there and do that. So I could almost see it where, okay, listen, Goldberg, go out there. You're going to get a crap ton of money. We're going to make it look where you're not going to be embarrassing yourself. You don't, you're not going to be embarrassed. All that's going to happen is you're not going to get pinned. Bray Wyatt will do the mandible claw on you, and you will pass out. Ref stops the match because you cannot continue. After the Fiend leaves the ring, you get your applause in from the audience. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. You could have done it that way. That's the way I would have done it. That doesn't happen that way, does it? So now, the other part of me thinks, okay, trying to make sense of all of this. Remember that these Saudi shows, the people putting on that show, they want big names, they want big things happening, these shows are put on a weird time because it's right on the road to WrestleMania. Keep in mind that Elimination Chamber is 10 days, 9 days away, 10 days away? So it's not even a guarantee that Goldberg will be the champion heading into WrestleMania. So we could all take a breath, breathe a sigh of relief, maybe, perhaps. What I always say to myself with these Saudi shows is these results sometimes are screwy, and you take it for what it is, because a lot of the people putting on these shows, they want their big names, winning. They don't know some of these other guys. They're going to know Goldberg, they're going to know Undertaker. They're not going to know, Hulk Hogan. They're not going to know a guy like, Samoa Joe. Do you think they're going to know who Samoa Joe is? No offense to Samoa Joe. No. The lesser, talent, or lesser on the food chain talent. They're not going to know who these guys are. So I think they want big results, title changes. They want all the works because they're spending money for this show. So sometimes what happens in the Saudi show, you take it for what it's worth, and it might be able to correct itself. Come Elimination Chamber, going into WrestleMania. So we will see how this unfolds. That just tells you, really, does Lesnar, Undertaker, Goldberg, come WrestleMania season, it seems like WWE needs these names. Sorry, AJ Styles, Ricochet. Sorry, Bray Wyatt. Maybe the management just does not have all that much faith in you. Speaking of the Saudi show, in that gauntlet match, it winds up being the Undertaker winning that trophy, just squashing AJ Styles, which I think clearly points to a AJ Styles Undertaker match at WrestleMania. But I personally would have loved R-Truth winning that trophy. He could carry that trophy around, thinking that it's a trophy that should be defended like a 24/7 championship. He could be calling it a championship when it's not a championship. He could be calling it a belt when it's not a belt. He could be... There could be many things that would have been done with R-Truth and that trophy. That would have been great material, is what I'm saying. Now, with The Undertaker winning it, if the fans got to see The Undertaker, that's what they wanted. You don't picture Undertaker walking around carrying a trophy. It doesn't really fit the character. You know what I mean? So, just going into AEW Revolution, which is coming up, just wanted to give you my thoughts and predictions for AEW Revolution. In no particular order here. Let's start with the championship match. How about Moxley versus Jericho? And you could see it eventually coming, right? Fans just I see it happening sooner than later. I don't know how long. I think if you ask Jericho, he probably loves playing the heel. I think he's actually played a heel more than he has a babyface. But the fans, man, they're just eating Jericho up. They're singing his theme song every night on Dynamite. They're singing his theme song on his cruise ship. This man, and you got to give it to Jericho, just constantly reinventing himself. Constantly. And so he's going to turn, just by default, I think the fans are just going to turn him face. Just by default, right? I think that's what's going to happen. So, but on to the prediction. Jericho was the guy that you needed. He had the name recognition. He kind of transcended multiple genres, whether it be music, talk with his podcast. He interviews a lot of guests. He had Donald Trump Jr. on there, for example. His music, he's still touring. He's an author. So he has access to like a lot of different venues, a lot of different avenues, rather. And just putting the belt on him made the most sense. Right, in Jericho. By the way, the youngest AEW champion in Jericho, heavyweight champion. Now Moxley, are we gonna put the title on Moxley right away? I don't know. Moxley kind of loses it. I don't know. I just don't see it with Moxley yet. I mean, Moxley is definitely just... the fans are into Moxley. Let's see. If I have to make a prediction... I think what's going to happen is the inner circle. There's going to be the dissension between the inner circle here. I think that this is where this is headed to. You know what? Give me Moxley winning. It's a cluster F. Inner circle costs Jericho the title. Jericho really doesn't flip out, but it starts that long process, the long disintegration of maybe one of these guys breaking out. from the Inner Circle, and that was set up the next feud. Now, who will it be? I don't know. That maybe to be developed, to be determined. The only one really that would make sense would be Guevara or Jericho. I'm sorry, Guevara or Hager. I don't know. I just think that some type of, maybe not some type of, something will happen where maybe there is no dissension between the Inner Circle. But I think it will kind of, when you flip this around where Jericho is the one now chasing Moxley, it could bring up some entertaining storylines. So let's go with Moxley beating out Jericho. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. You see this happening a mile away. Hangman Page does not feel appreciated by the Young Bucks, and even doesn't feel appreciated by his tag team partner. He feels, like that he's not held to the same standard. I think the Young Bucks are going to win. They're going to become the new champion. They're going to defeat, they're going to defeat Page and Kenny Omega. Page and Kenny Omega will be full out, Page will just full out flip, and there we go. That'll just continue that storyline. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander. I think Nyla Rose is going to win this one. That women's division really needs some work. Nyla Rose, with her moveset, is she the best champion? No. Is she the best? But she brings, fear, I think, with the moves that she's able to do. Though she did lose to Rio. I just think, you can't really, there's really no one in that division. That division needs so much work. I just don't see it changing hands with Chris Statlander. Keep it on Nyla Rose, who could do that power move set, kind of strike fear in the hearts of all the women competitors just by her appearance and, what she's able to do in the ring. So let me go with Nyla Rose on that. You also have Orange Cassidy versus Pac. Orange Cassidy, it is good. Is good for what he is. This is going to be his first. He's going to actually be wrestling here. I just think that, unfortunately, the hands in the pocket really does not stand no chance against an angry Pac. So we're going to go with Pac on that. Looking at I'm sorry, lost my train of thought, man. How with that Bray Wyatt, right, guys? How are you feeling after that? What else here? We do have Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. Sammy Guevara just is always the guy seems to be eating the pin. I like the whole Spanish God thing. Darby Allin with his skateboard, he's been beat to crap last couple of weeks here. And Darby Allin gets his revenge on Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara does get the last word in, keeping the inner circle strong. Attack by Santana and Ortiz on Darby Allin there. But I do see Darby Allin with the victory. Jake Hager versus Dustin here. Dustin, he looks rejuvenated. He's moving around nicely from what you've seen on TV. He's happy to be there, obviously, with his brother. And Hager, first time he's going to be wrestling. Is also doing MMA as well. I really don't see, how they're stressing the fact that he is undefeated in MMA. I think they want to keep his credibility. I think Hager is going to go over Dustin here. There's really nothing for, you got to keep the Big Hurt looking strong, especially in his first match in AEW. So, I think Hager is going to win this. And I think it's going to look where he's going to hurt. He's going to hurt Dustin pretty good. Maybe a submission hold, trying to break the arm again with a submission hold. So I look for Hager to win that one. MJF versus Cody Rhodes. I think MJF is going to win it to kind of further on. Because if you look at it right now, Cody is not able to challenge for the World Championship because of his loss due to, in part, to MJF. So this will just add to the storyline of his determination, how he was betrayed, how he came up short to revenge what was done to him. I think it will all play out in a bigger scope of things on his climb back to somehow being given another title opportunity. I think this will play a part in it. MJF, he's a classic, old school and used with old school mannerisms and he applies it in the new age now of wrestling, of being a heel. This loss, believe it or not, will do actually more for Cody than a victory would. So I think MJF will win this. So I think it will be a great pay-per-view. I definitely look forward to it. In other AEW news, they have signed Archer. Remember Archer was in TNA, was in WWE, most recently in New Japan. I think this is a good get for AEW. If you look at Archer, he kind of has, the mannerisms of, let's say, Undertaker. Does similar moves like he does, old school. Just the way he walks around the ring, like very slow, methodic. I guess you have to be slow and methodic for a big man. It's the last time you've seen an agile guy running the ropes back and forth, I guess. But he reminds me a lot of like Undertaker, and before he was Undertaker, Mark Calloway. I think it's a good. It's a good sign for AEW. Remember, he's 42 now, so it's a multi-year deal. Interesting to see what you see out of him. Just speaking of that, there's actually talk that he might be this whole Matt Hardy thing. What will Matt Hardy do as his contract is up March 1st? People are saying by some of the video clips that he's been doing that he's the leader of the Dark Order. My suspicion tells me that I just think that he's going to this thing that he's doing on his YouTube channel is just like reintroducing himself as Broken Matt. Where he's going to re-sign with the WWE, and this is his way. He's just, introducing the character again. I don't think necessarily that he's going to sign with AEW. I just don't. I mean, you hear there's no real buzz of it. There's speculation. I mean, there was a drop of the word obsolete, but on AEW Dynamite, or rather on a social media post, and I just think that would be too obvious. I don't know. I think Jeff Hardy is at a point where he wants to be. He's probably more than financially secure, but I just think now he has. Maybe he's looking for a little bit more stability, a guaranteed paycheck, because, his family is still growing in the college and so on and so forth, and his brother, Jeff is still there, and Matt Hardy. So where Matt Hardy's, and why do I say Matt with Jeff, and I confuse the two so many times. Stupid. There also was thoughts about Vance Archer being the leader of the Dark Order. If that's the case, why would they just kind of announce that he's already signed? It's not really done. So then if it were to happen that way, there's no really element of surprise, I guess. So I know it will be determined, but I just don't think that it will be, Matt Hardy. I think Matt Hardy's staying with the WWE, honestly. But it will be you will wait to see what happens. March 1st. So you will see what happens. There's news coming out of Daniel Bryan. You remember Daniel Bryan has made his return recently after being out for quite some time. Now back, different version of the Daniel Bryan, but he's still now back as a seems like a face, safe to say. And you've seen some interaction with him, Drew Gulak, and Heath Slater. And apparently the word is that's because of his doing. He pitches a lot of ideas, apparently, in the back. Tries to get everyone involved. And for the most part, the WWE is going along with it. They're saying that he's looked upon as a leader, and I see that. I mean, he's been wrestling forever. If you remember when he first came into WWE, it took a while, I think, for the fans to take a liking to Daniel Bryan. Of course, your hardcore fans, American, the Dragon, so on and so forth. But again, that doesn't translate sometimes what you do on the indies. It took him a while to really find himself. And then once he found himself, that's when the fans really started taking a liking to him. Remember when he first, I think it all turned for him when he started teaming with Kane. And there you go. And then you have the Yes movement, and some of the best material, and it happened by accident, and there you go, the Yes movement. And now Daniel Bryan, wherever he goes, is beloved, and all he has to say is yes. Yeah, he doesn't even have to say yes. He just has to point his two fingers, and that's it. And that gave him, he was able to show his personality with the Kane skits and, the yes movement. So, he's a guy that could, that when his career is over, will have a lot to put, to contribute backstage, whether it be a producer or whatever he chooses to do. So good for Daniel Bryan. And where it is that he's probably will be facing Sheamus at WrestleMania, which I think would be a good way of trying to avenge that loss for Daniel Bryan that everyone talks about. Will Sheamus lose in less time than Daniel Bryan? That's to be determined. But that could be a very interesting match, if in fact it leads to that way. So, that's all I had for this week. It was mostly, my AEW predictions, some notes from the Saudi show that I wanted to discuss. Yeah, wow. I'm going to go back and, watch the full thing there. But interesting developments. Remember, again, that all that bad taste that you have in your mouth could very well change. Remember, Elimination Chamber is coming up. So don't take what happened at the Saudi show to be a precursor for how your WrestleMania is going to look. I hope all is well. And I look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon.